Recently, I watched the debate, and it made me think about a lot of things because when I was watching and I was looking at a certain candidate who was answering in such a nonsensical way, I was once again just flabbergasted, amazed, and stupefied that anybody could find in him something I wanted to support, something that they wanted to vote for, something that they wanted to contribute money to for his campaign. But that also made me think about the rose colored glasses, the delusion, the blind allegiance that some people seem to have to the past. I have had conversations with men online, and they will be raving about how our grandparents' marriages lasted and everything now is so fake, and that our culture has not appreciated the sacrifices of the past because we didn't hold on to things like, quote, unquote, family values. Now, just like these gentlemen are saying this very positive phrase, family values, Trump says positive phrases sometimes that seem to move his audience and keep them on his side. But there's not really any substance to that claim or to that phrase or to that portrayal of the past, in the same way that there's no substance in much of what Donald Trump says. If we think about the past, and normally they're talking about our grandmother's day, some of our grandmothers were child brides. To me, and to most people who have a good sense of morals, child marriage is not a family value that we should hold on to. And if we look at the rights that our grandmothers had access to, they had very few rights. Some of them were born before women had the right to vote. And they were watching as that changed. Many of them were born when women couldn't get a bank loan, a credit card, couldn't have certain jobs, couldn't, if they were a single woman, couldn't get contraception or birth control, couldn't open a bank account without their husband's signature. There were so many restrictions. It's mind-boggling the number of things that women couldn't do in the past. And having this blind allegiance to this idea that things were somehow better means you have to ignore all of the evidence to the contrary. Just like anybody who is supporting Donald Trump has to ignore his nonsense statements, has to ignore his 34 felony convictions, has to ignore the court cases that he has lost where he's been proven liable for fraud, has to ignore that he's a predator and he's gone after underage girls and been convicted of all kinds of SA. So it's the same kind of blind allegiance that people have when they talk about how great our grandparents' marriages were, how great family values were in the past. There are so many things that are better now. There is more reporting of child abuse. It's not a family value, but there was a lot more going on in the past. There's more reporting of all types of abuse. Domestic violence was not illegal until around 1978. No-fault divorce wasn't legal, until around the same time. So the family values that they're talking about are really just oppression and putting women in a situation where, for survival's sake, she had to put up with almost anything because she didn't have very many other options. So that's not a family value. That's valuing compliance, valuing oppression, valuing repression and suppression. That's misogyny. That's patriarchy. It's not family values. And so the people that believe this, it's almost as if, in my mind, I have to put them in this category of, I don't trust very many things that they say, because how can you be so delusional? How can you ignore a whole mountain of evidence that shows your thought process is wrong and cling to it so vehemently, so stringently? Like, how is that even possible? Isn't there something in your brain and your heart and your mind saying there was more bad than good in the past, in relationships and in families, the way that the power dynamic was set up, and so it just makes me wonder about the people that keep bringing up the past as if it's something they want to go back to. Because it's very hard for me to believe that adults could be that clueless of what we have accomplished in the last 60, 70 years. May you walk in Zenergy. Recently, I watched the debate, and it made me think about a lot of things, because when I was watching